Chapter 276 to 280. She didn't dare to go out and take a taxi. Instead, he used the taxi software and called the car over to the entrance of the building. When the car appeared, she lowered her hat and quickly got in. When she arrived at the clubhouse address that John Anderson gave her, she reported the room number and the waiter brought her in. John Anderson was not here yet. Just as Laura was waiting, Judy called her. She picked up the phone. Judy asked anxiously, "Laura, where did you go?" "Judy, I have something to do. You eat breakfast first. I'll be back in a while." "But can you do it alone?" "Yes, there won't be any problems." "You can rest assured." Hanging up, Judy was still a little worried, so she decided to give William Walton a call. "Mr. Walton, you've gone out to take care of me." "Where did she go?" "I don't know. I went grocery shopping. She left a note for me saying that she was going out. I was a little worried, so I called her. She said that she was going out to do some work and would be back soon. But I always felt that there was something wrong with her leaving the house at this time of the day. She was afraid to even go out to buy groceries in the morning. I know I came to find her." William Walton found Daniel's number and told him to look it up. He had just been sitting here, and this was the only way to get to the outside of the district. It wasn't hard to find her. Sitting for more than 10 minutes, John Anderson arrived. In these few days that he had not seen her, the sides of John Anderson's ears had actually gained a lot of white hair. Presumably, his precious daughter had committed suicide and was hospitalized. He was too worried about the consequences. When John Anderson saw her, his expression was cold and indifferent. She was the same as before. The father and the daughter looked at each other as if they were enemies meeting. John Anderson walked to the side of the tea table and sat down and started to make tea. He loved tea. She knew. Not long after, he made her a cup of tea and placed it in front of her. "You haven't drunk my tea yet, have you?" "No need. I'm not here for tea." "There's no need to beat around the bush. Laura, I can understand why you would hate me so much, but you have to understand that the reason I didn't give you a fatherly love was not because you weren't cute enough, nor because I didn't love you enough, but because I hate your mother." After he finished speaking, he picked up the teacup and took a sip. She looked at him. Her face was expressionless. He continued, "I didn't want to tell you some things. You've blamed all your faults on me. Plus, your mother has already left. But just because I've made you hate me for so many years doesn't mean that I've done wrong. I told you I'm not here to listen to you beat around the bush. Did you know that I was in love with your mother before I was married?" She didn't reply. John Anderson continued, "At that time I was young and vigorous, and it was the best time of a person's life. I fell in love with your mother at first sight, and after the two of us confirmed our relationship, we cherished each other the entire time. I loved her very much, really loved her very much. Even now I can still recall those years when I was moved by a woman. I loved to hold her hand and walk by the sea. She loved to paint, so I would accompany her to sketch on weekends. Her dream was to be a teacher, so I could read and study with her all day in the crowded park. And I swear to God, I've only ever given so much love to your mother in my life. As to why you paid so much, you understand. At that time, there was nothing between us. We only hoped that each other's happy relationship was truly pure. At the very least, to me, it was like this." Hearing John Anderson's words, her heart tensed up. John Anderson said as he sighed, "I originally thought that we would always be happy, always getting married, starting a family, having children, just like ordinary people, living a normal and happy life. But..." John Anderson lifted his teacup once again and took a sip of tea. "It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, this is a fact. Laura, do you know how much my heart hurts when I see your mother sleeping with another man?" She clenched her fist and cast a cold glare at him. John Anderson nodded his head with a look of certainty. "I know what I just said was very hard for you to accept. After all, in your eyes, your mother is pure, innocent, strong, and tolerant woman. But the truth is still as I said." She bit her lips in a gentle manner. "So, what's the evidence?" John Anderson took out a few pieces of A4 paper from his bag and handed it over to her. Staring at the papers affectionately for a moment, she extended her hand and took them. "This is your mother's handwriting. You should recognize it." Flipping through a few pages, she confirmed that these were indeed her mother's handwriting. She frowned. This was a letter of apology from her mother. "John, I know that I am no longer innocent and am no longer worthy of your love. Therefore, besides apologizing, I also want to tell you, let's part ways. In the future, I will no longer disturb your life." Staring at the letter tenderly for a while, she fell into a trance. John Anderson said, "Now you should believe that what I have said is true, right? I can tell from this letter that my mother had made mistake. My mom also mentioned in the letter that she wanted to break up with you. Since she mentioned it like this, it means that she knows that if she did something wrong, She would have to pay the price, and the price she had to pay was to lose you. Since my mom has already paid the price for her mistakes, why did you have to torture her like that for the rest of her life? Because I'm not reconciled to this. Laura, if you love someone with all your heart and throw yourself into all those emotions, in the end, you would only be let down. Can you just leave the side of the person who betrayed you silently just like that? I can't, because I hate it. So? She clenched her fist and looked at him, the corners of her mouth trembling as she tried to suppress the grief in her heart. So do I deserve to be the victim of your hatred? John Anderson glanced at him. I am indeed not qualified to say that I am a good father to you, but all of this was caused by your mother. Is that so? Looking at him, she actually began to laugh, so it turns out that a father can openly find excuses for himself and loathe his daughter. She took a deep breath. Tell me, what is the purpose of all this? What do you want me to do for you? John Anderson looked at her. I want you to come back to the Anderson family to live with me. She turned her head to the side and coldly laughed. Do you think that is possible? Once your identity is revealed, there will no longer be any problems. I've already discussed this matter with Helen at home. The Anderson family's share price has plummeted, so the only way for you to return to the Anderson family is to let them know that the Anderson family has always been good to you. Until your wedding with Mr. Walton, you must live in the Anderson family. Only then will you not ruin the reputation of the Anderson family. She laughed in a low voice, losing control of her emotions. John Anderson frowned. I know that you are unwilling, but other than that, you have no other choice. I've said this before. If you don't listen to me, I will make a public announcement regarding your mother's shameful deeds. Right now, there are only 2 ways to save the Anderson family. You can either return to the Anderson family or have your mother ruin her reputation to prove my innocence. In my opinion, your plan is the best one for you to return to the Anderson family. Her eyes drooped as they looked at the grayish-white ground. There was a myriad of emotions within their hearts. What a great trap. She didn't want to jump, but she had no choice. Laura, have you decided yet? Mr. Anderson, you really are a lucky man. In the first half of your life, my mother was used by you, and in the second half of your life, I am the shield for you. John Anderson turned his head and said coldly, I've already said it. It was not my fault. She raised her hand and covered her eyes. Be strong, she reminded herself. You said that you loved my mother, but it seems to me that it was not like that at all. You said that it was you who loved her, but you were also the one who made the cut on her. You said that it was because of love that you would hate me, but I feel that it was only because of your unwillingness. You don't understand how I feel at all. She nodded her head. I don't understand. I only know that when my mother was alive, she had never said a bad word of you to me. Even after we ran out of options to beg you, you treated us like beggars and chased us out of her house. She didn't complain at all. In the past few years, every time you drank too much in the middle of the night and came to our home, she would cry all night after you left. When your wife was tormenting her like a madman, she had been enduring, always bowing down. You said you loved her, but which part of the pain you gave her wasn't fatal? Her depression was not caused by nature, it was forced by you and Anderson family. In the final stage of her life, when her health was very poor, when I went to beg for your help, what did you do? You chose to stand by and watch. When John Anderson heard this, he did not dare meet her eyes. I'm not here to talk to you about all these to get you to approve of my past actions. I just want to tell you that regardless of whether you're willing to or not, you have to do this Anderson family's second miss. You have always been a filial child, surely you wouldn't want your mother to bear any form of infamy? As long as you obediently follow me back, I will bear the name of a trashy man who has been raising his wife outside for a long time. Abandon your wife and cheat. Oh, you think this is great, don't you? John Anderson, you are really despicable at this moment. You didn't forget to step on my mother. My mother is obviously not your lover. She is a machine for you to vent your anger on. All these the people of the world will not care. They will only firmly believe that the woman that Mr. Walton married is actually a slut's daughter. Actually, you could have never revealed this to them. You can't blame me for this matter. It was you who had Mr. Walton completely push you into the Anderson family, right? His words made her heart tremble. Yeah, it was William Walton who pushed her into this abyss. She looked at him arrogantly. All right, you want me to go back to the Anderson family, right? I'll go back. But you must not regret it. She stood up and looked at him coldly. Tomorrow, let all Anderson family prepare to welcome the second young miss of the Anderson family home. She turned and walked out. Anderson family's second miss. What a sarcastic title. But since William Walton had already labeled her with this, did she have any other choice? She knew better than anyone what her mother was like. She already knew how her mother had endured these few decades of being single. Thinking about her first night with William Walton, she firmly believed that there must be a reason. John Anderson would definitely not be able to think of all these. He didn't believe his mother, but it was because he didn't want to believe her. Love was not that profound, so he was able to torture his mother for the rest of his life. Love? Damn love, that's why she couldn't believe it. Now that her mother was gone, she would never let anyone splash dirty water on her. Wasn't it just the Anderson family? Even William Walton had lost her, so the current her was already fearless. Leaving the clubhouse, she took a taxi and had the driver take her to the cemetery. Arriving at her mother's grave, she knelt down on one knee and looked at the photo of her mother's smiling face. I came in a hurry. I forgot to bring your favorite flowers and snacks. She sat down cross-legged on her side. Mom, we mother and daughter really don't have any relationship with men. The way we look at men is so bad and so stupid. We don't even know how to protect our own hearts. So that's why you made yourself look so miserable. She covered her face with her hands and sighed heavily. You once wanted him to accept me so much to take me back to the Anderson family and give me a happy life, but he treated me like trash and swept me out the door. And now he's using you to blackmail me into going back to that trashy house. Mom, I really wanted to keep my initial stance and listen to you. I don't want revenge. I don't want harm. I don't want the past to tarnish my life. But now, I might go back on my words now. If I do something that disappoints you in the future, don't blame me, okay? As she spoke, her voice was choked with emotions. She really wanted to cry. Only in a place with no one else could she act so brazenly. Her phone suddenly rang. She took out her phone, looked at it, and saw that it was Carol Wright calling. She took a deep breath and wiped away her tears, then picked up the phone. Carol Wright's voice came out from the phone. Miss Green, are you all right? She asked in an indifferent tone. Is there anything that Miss Wright needs from me? Just worried about you. I'm fine, thank you for your concern. Miss Green, actually. I called you today because I have something to confess to you. She frowned. What is it? This matter. I truly do not have the face to speak. However, I'm afraid that if I don't speak now, you will truly be in trouble because of me. She hated people who stuttered the most. What's going on? Miss Green, I am truly sorry. Actually, the matter of your past is something that I exposed. Her warm heart chilled. What did you say? I watched the news that day and found out that someone was writing about your relationship with Nick Anderson. There was even someone in the analysis area who said that you had cuckolded William. I felt really furious in my heart. Because they don't know that you and Nick Anderson are siblings, but I do. I don't want you to carry the reputation of being amorous, and even more so, I don't want others to say that William is wearing a green hat. You are all good people, so why did you get scolded by others because of your originally magnanimous relationship? Thus, I cleverly found a reporter to expose the truth of this matter in the name of William. At that time, I thought that I had solved your troubles for you, and I even thought that you and William would be grateful to me. But I didn't expect him to say that I was acting on my own initiative after knowing about this matter, and even told me not to do anything rash in the future. When I asked him why he said I had done such a good deed, he told me that the Anderson family didn't treat you well. You hated the Anderson family, and you didn't want yourself to become the Anderson family either, so you didn't tell me the truth. I always feel that I've caused a disaster, so I feel that I'm very sorry for you. This matter was not done by William Walton. It wasn't him. Yes, he knew her. How could he do such a thing? On the other end, Carol Wright said, Miss Green, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me for my recklessness? Actually, since yesterday, I felt very guilty. I've always wanted to call you to apologize, but William said that I should not intervene in this matter. He would take full responsibility and ask me not to meddle in other people's business. The more I think about it, the more I feel that this is no good. If you really care about this matter, and yet you took the blame for me, then you must be very angry at him. I don't want you to be unhappy because of my actions, so after thinking about it, I still decided to apologize to you. Her heart felt as if someone had nailed a sharp and slender nail onto it. It was extremely painful. So much so that she did not even hear what Carol Wright had said afterwards. Her head buzzed. So William Walton clearly knew how angry she was because of this matter, but he still carried the blame for Carol Wright. He would rather she hate him than to let her blame Carol Wright. She put her hand to her heart. Although he told her with his mouth that his entire heart was filled with her, but he used his actions to tell her that the one he cared about the most was still Carol Wright. Since his love for Carol Wright was so deep, why did he still drag her down with him? To deceive people? In order to tell Jack that he was already married, had he already put down Carol Wright completely? She hung up, bent over, and pressed her forehead against the edge of the tombstone, silently weeping. She suddenly understood why her mother would walk such an extreme path. If no one in this world could make them feel care and love, then what was the point of this person living? William Walton, why are you giving me such fake love and wounds? Why do you want me to hate you? Their past was clearly so harmonious, but why? Yet it was all an illusion? After an unknown period of time, a familiar voice could be heard from her side. Why are you sitting on the ground? The ground is cold. Let me help you up. She turned her head to look at him. Sure enough, as long as she was in Philadelphia, no matter where she went, he would be able to find her anytime. With such a sacred heart, how could William Walton possibly give her love? She coldly looked away and ignored him. William Walton crouched down, wanting to help her up. Laura avoided his arm, saying, "I'm going back to the Anderson family to live." William Walton looked at her with a surprised expression. She turned to look at him with a vengeful smile on his lips. Why did you reveal such a shocked expression? If it weren't for you personally turning me into the second lady of the Anderson family, the one that could be used by the Anderson family? William Walton was furious just now. This is what John Anderson was talking about when he saw you? She turned his gaze away from his face and looked at the portrait of his mother again. Right now, they want me to return and become a chess piece. As for me, I do not have the qualifications to refuse because I want to protect her. She shook her head and smiled gently. How laughable. It was only today that I realized that no matter if a person is alive or dead, they can still be used by others. He supported her, saying, "You will follow me back to the Walton family. I will settle the Anderson family's matters." However, she calmly lifted her hand and pushed away the hand holding her arm. Why? Isn't this all you're doing? William Walton, don't play this kind of game that you slap me and give me another candy. I have been stubborn since I was young and will not accept candy from someone who has slapped me. William Walton said, "I never thought that John Anderson would be despicable enough to make use of you. I will not spare him. I don't care what you do to him," she said, rising to her feet, her hands on the floor facing him. The difference in height between the two of them was not small. She raised her head to look at him with a faint smile. There was a type of person who could use a smile to let you see through her alienation from you. She was like that. At this moment, her smile caused him to feel inexplicably anxious in his heart. William Walton raised his hand, yet took a step back indifferently. I became the second young miss of the Anderson family, and you are the third master of the Walton family. There is an irreconcilable hatred between the Walton family and the Anderson family, not to mention the fact that the second master disagrees. Even I know that there will be no conclusion between you and me. William Walton frowned. What exactly do you want to say? From the very beginning, there has been a difference between you and me. In the past, I was very clear-headed. It was you who brainwashed me time and time again, allowing me to slowly think that I was self-righteous. Perhaps. You and I really can. God really left the best in the end, bestowed on me. But now, William Walton, I won't keep having unrealistic dreams anymore. So sorry, you won't have the chance to use me anymore. Go find someone else. I'm using you? What are you talking about? She didn't know how long he wanted to deny it. She didn't want to care. She only knew that her heart was already very tired, and she didn't want to be entangled with him again. William Walton, just pretend that the marriage between us didn't happen. Is marriage a joke? How can you pretend that the truth has never happened? Laura, like I said, don't even think about getting divorced. No matter if you are the daughter of the Anderson family, you are still my William Walton's wife. My wife should live in the Walton family and not in the Anderson family. She did not respond to his words and only continued a divorce agreement. If you are unwilling to give it to me now, I will wait. One day when you have a new lover, you can give them to me at any time. I will sign it, and when I marry you, I was penniless. When I get divorced, I will also go out without your money. She walked around him and started to leave. William Walton pulled her arm. I told you we won't get a divorce. Laura did not make a sound. William Walton continued, do you really want your child to be born with a single-parent family? They obviously have parents, so why are they doing this? She shook his hand away. Isn't this what you want to bear? You caused it. Why are you asking me now? When you decided to do whatever you wanted, no one asked me what I thought right? William Walton exhaled. I know you're very angry, but I thought that you would forgive me in 2 to 3 days. I'm already mentally prepared, and I'll have to endure all of your anger. But don't mention divorce. The only thing I want to give up is marriage. And the child? After the baby was born, you didn't want it anymore. She replied without thinking, of course I want to. If so, why do you mention divorce? Do you think I'd be willing to give you the child to raise after the divorce? She clenched her fist. You have caused me to become like this today. Do you still want to fight with me for the custody of a child? I am the father of the child and have the right to choose to live with the child. So if you don't want to be separated from the child, you'd better give up the idea of a divorce. Because I'm not going to be separated from the child at all. She only had her child, was he going to fight with her? William Walton knew that he had provoked her again. He held her arms with both hands. Laura, you don't want me to steal our child, marry someone else, have our child, call someone else as mother, and let other women mistreat our child because she don't like our child. Marriage is always good, so are parents. What do you think? Her expression was cold. William Walton, I'm not joking with you. I'm serious. We are all adults now. I think you should think about this problem carefully, weighing the pros and cons. The child living in a family with sound parents, that is the best living environment. Looking at his gentle face, it was hard to imagine that he was actually fawning over her for Carol Wright's sake. She pushed his arms away and turned to walk down the hill. William Walton had always been a man who didn't listen to others' advice, so naturally he wouldn't give up on pestering her, because of her attitude. He quickly stepped forward and held her horizontally without any warning. What are you doing, William Walton? Put me down. Nope, William Walton said calmly. If you think that I'm really angry holding you, then change your way of thinking. The mountain road is rugged and what I'm carrying is not you, but my child, and it's just that my child is coincidentally in your stomach, so you should be able to accept it. William Walton, she shouted in anger. William Walton said, you can shout even if your voice is broken, no one will come to save you. She stared at him. He did it again. He couldn't have believed that such a pestering method would be useful to her, right? She turned her head away from him, not wanting to meet his gaze. Just like that, she was carried all the way down the mountain. She didn't resist when he shoved her into the car. Fighting him for so long, she already knew his path. Now, even if she said she wanted to get out, he wouldn't let her go. Furthermore, there was no taxi around here. Since that was the case, why should she look for trouble? William Walton's car drove into the city, and Laura said to Thomas, Thomas, send me to Big City Home. Thomas glanced at William Walton from the rearview mirror. William Walton did not make a sound that Thomas was at a loss of what to do, Miss Walton. Thomas, please call me Miss Green. William Walton crossed his legs and said, why are you making things difficult for Thomas? He can't make the decision. You should be discussing this with me. She turned her head and glared at him. Do you want to see me jump? This car is moving. You cannot open the door. William Walton said as he looked at her with relief. Seeing her angry look, he raised the center of his brows. Then he nodded. All right, you are pregnant. You are the biggest. Thomas, go to Big City Home. Yes, Mr. Walton. She leaned back and turned her head to look out the window. William Walton said, are you serious about going back to the Anderson family? Laura did not make a sound. Laura. He pulled her arm and pulled her towards him, forcing her to face him. I'm serious. Do you think that what I've just said to you in front of my mother was just anger? You can't go back. Sorry. I won't obey you. I am John Anderson's illegitimate daughter, the second lady of the Anderson family. My father told me to go home and I can only go back, or else it would be unfilial. Laura, no matter how angry you are, you can't just throw yourself into a wolf's den just to anger me. She shook her head. You're thinking too much. Do you really think that you're not in a wolf's nest? Now in my eyes there is no difference between living with you and living with Anderson family. Hearing this, William Walton was furious, but he could do nothing about it. What he was angry about was that she actually compared him to the people from the Anderson family. The helpless thing was, he was the first to cause trouble, so he couldn't blame her. You just said that you want to return to the Anderson family to protect your mother. Did John Anderson use your mother to threaten you? Laura ignored him. Laura, can you not worry about me? Can you let me calm down for a bit? No matter what you say now, I won't think that you're helping me, and I don't need your help either. In the driver's seat, Thomas regretted not driving a room car when he went out today. Listening to her scold at such a close distance made his back completely drenched in sweat. However, the big boss was not angry at all. The car stopped in front of the entrance of the Big City Home. She opened the car door and got out. Before closing the door, she coldly said to him, everything I just said is effective. Once you've thought it through, you can send the divorce agreement over any time. After she finished speaking, she closed the door and left without looking back. William Walton looked at her back and was a little doubtful. For some reason, the way she treated him now was completely different from the way she treated him downstairs in the middle of the night yesterday. Last night, he had thought that she had softened her heart and feared that he would be swayed, which was why she had come down to chase him away. But now, all he could feel was alienation and indifference. Seeing that Laura had finally returned, Judy, who had been extremely worried at home, finally heaved a sigh of relief. She stepped forward and took the Laura's bag. she said angrily. You are a pregnant woman. Why are you so carefree? You didn't tell me where you were going. Do you know that I was worried about you at home? She was not in a good mood as she patted her shoulder. I'll go wash my hands. Sigh. Judy muttered while following behind her. I say, young lady, can we not keep all of our worries in our hearts? Isn't it better to share it with everyone if we speak of it? Washing her hands, she said to Judy, tomorrow you can go home. What? Are you annoyed with me? No. She pulled her to the sofa and sat down. I just went to see John Anderson. Why should you see him? He made things difficult for you. She smiled. Something has happened. I have to return to the Anderson family for now. Why? The mother and daughter of the Anderson family hates you so much. If you go back, they will skin you alive. Take it easy. They don't know my marriage is broken. That's why no one dares to touch me. When I return this time, I will only be staying for a few days, so I will leave as soon as possible, leaving you here by yourself. I was worried, so I let you go home. No, I'm not leaving. I'll wait for you here. But you can't cook. You can't eat takeout here every day. What's wrong with eating takeaway food? Speaking of eating, you didn't eat anything this morning. It's already after lunch, so you should be hungry. Come, there's food. As she spoke, she got up and ran into the kitchen. Not long later, she brought out a bowl of chicken soup. When she saw the chicken soup and a few dishes, she was slightly surprised. You ordered it? No, an hour ago a middle-aged man delivered it. He said that he was the butler and was specifically looking after your diet. I tasted it an hour ago, and I am fine now. It is not poisoned, just don't worry and eat it. As she spoke, she handed over the bowl and fork. The butler is the housekeeper of the Waltons' residence. He's a good person and won't poison me. Then hurry up and eat. It's okay if you're hungry, but don't starve my nephew. As she spoke, she seemed to remember something and said seriously, Hey, girl. Are we going to be the godmother of each other's child in the future? Looking at her, she smiled and nodded all right. Judy touched her belly excitedly. Baby, you have to be good inside your mother's stomach. In 7 months, you will be able to meet your mother. Does he have a name? Thinking about the name that had been given to the child by William Walton, her eyes drooped, and she calmly drank a mouthful of soup. Wall. William Walton's Wall? Wall from Walmart. Judy could not help but laugh. Okay, Wall from Walmart. She rolled her eyes. I'm serious. Okay, Wall. I'll properly urge your mother to eat. If she doesn't eat obediently, you can kick her around in place of your godmother and give her some hard questions. She frowned and said, You have no conscience. Didn't I want you to eat more and become a fatty? This way I can at least crush you once on my body. She shook her head. Then you're too early to be happy. The child won't be able to conceive until 4 months later, no matter what. He won't be able to help you supervise me. Did you read the book? She nodded. Ah, what a pity. She pointed to the food and said, Let's eat together. Judy felt her heart ache when she saw her preoccupied. However, she was quite content with being able to divert her attention and make her forget her worries for a short period of time. In the morning of the second day, Judy sent her down the stairs. She did not expect to see William Walton the moment she walked out of the door. She frowned. Why was he here again? Judy said, About that. Laura, when you get to the Anderson family, give me a call. I'm going upstairs to wash my clothes. After she finished speaking, she turned around and ran away like a wisp of smoke. She looked coldly at William Walton. What are you doing here again? I heard that you're going back to the Anderson family today. She turned around and looked at Judy's back, and couldn't help but mutter, Judy, this traitor. William Walton said, Even if you don't say it, I will find out sooner or later. Laura raised her eyebrows and said, I want to go back to the Anderson family. But what does that have to do with you? My wife wants to go back to her home. As a husband, how can I not accompany her? She said stubbornly. I won't trouble Mr. Walton to worry about me anymore. William Walton nodded his head. Laura, don't be stubborn. You understand me. I know that you do not want me to travel with you, but you still came. You think I am here to put on airs. There was a cold look on her face as she said so. What do you mean? What do you want to do? I'll send you back and also have the butler stay behind to accompany you. She said, I don't need you to be hypocritical. If you really hate my help so much, then do you think I'm concerned about our child? Isn't that easier to accept? After hesitating for a moment, she did not say anything. William Walton continued, I know that you are currently angry, so you aren't willing to share with me the reason why you have to return to the Anderson family to live. You're like a stubborn donkey. At this moment, even if I say that you are not allowed to go back to the Anderson family, you will not listen to me. But we both know what kind of place the Anderson family is. If you go back like this, I am truly worried that the Anderson family will bully you. Since you don't want me to guard you, then let me send you back. On one hand, it is to pressure the Anderson family. The butler is an experienced man, I trust him a lot. With him by your side, you will not suffer any losses. Laura did not say anything. She was also measuring. Actually, she didn't want to fight against the mother and daughter pair in the Anderson family either. William Walton then said, "Furthermore, protecting you is equivalent to protecting our child. Can you accept it now?" Looking at his face, she felt resentment in her heart once again. He had clearly treated her so well, but why did it all seem like an illusion? Liar. She really couldn't understand why he would bring such kind face to deceive her feelings. She stepped toward his car. The butler stood at the entrance of the carriage and said respectfully, "Miss Walton?" She nodded at him and got into the car. William Walton turned around to look at her, and his lips revealed a hint of a smile. Although she was angry, she was still very rational and knew how to weigh the pros and cons. This was what he admired about her the most. The car pulled away. Half an hour later, they arrived at the Anderson family villa. Seeing that there was no one at the entrance of the Anderson family, the corners of her mouth curled up in a smile. Hey, she hasn't even entered the Anderson family yet, but they showed their attitude.